wondering, tell us about how you came up on this project and why you decided to make this film.
I guess it all happened when we moved to California. We have a company that has been doing film in Mexico or generating films from Mexico, but not always shooting them there, for almost 10 years, and we have 15 films, and one of my partners, Pablo Cruz, and we came and opened an office here to start generating also stuff from California, and we were looking for a project that would allow us to connect an audience in this country that has a lot of similarities and connections to the community we come from, to establish a bridge between Latin America and the Latino experience in the States, because we believe that there's so many things we have in common. There's so many stories we should be sharing, but we've allowed this border to fracture us, to divide us, and it's ridiculous. As Cesar Chavez said, our strength is in our numbers, but we have to accept that there's more things that connect us, and I thought by telling the story of Cesar Chavez and celebrating the legacy of this man, we would be sending also the right message today out there, that is that if change is ever going to happen, it's in the hands of the people. We cannot be waiting for the political class to make it happen, or for corporations to one day wake up and say, oh, we're doing wrong, let's give 20% of our earnings to people so they can improve their lives, and that's never going to happen. But what the movement showed us in the 60s is that there's a way to connect with others. Those who apparently have no connection with your context and your reality and your issues and your struggle, in fact they do, Instead of hitting straight a big machine that was against them, that definitely was going to end in a very violent way and on a easy loss, what they did is they went around and talked to consumers, They went to talk to consumers, and at the end then it was a mother talking to a mother. As simple as that, telling personal stories, and that changed the way this country behaved and saw this community, In fact, that indifference that this community was suffering changed.
So what do you think Diego Luna thinks about Diego Luna, the director, and what Diego Luna, the director, thinks about Diego Luna, the actor?
As a director, I think there's a lot for me to learn, but that I can tell you that my passion is there today. My hunger, my need for being able to tell the stories I care about, to raise the questions I want to raise, to bring topics to a table that I think need to be discussed. It's definitely there, I'm thinking as a director now more than ever. And as an actor, I would never hire myself.
What about Alfonso Cuarón winning, the first Latin America director Oscar?
It's the same feeling I get when they ask me, how does it feel to do the first film about Cesar Chavez? In one hand, it's depressing. It's depressing to be the first film about Cesar Chavez. It's depressing to be celebrating Alfonso's amazing achievement of getting an Oscar and then finding out he's the first Latin American to do it. It's ridiculous.
So, but that means that Si Se Puede now?
Of course, but Si Se Puede since the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We have to be reminded, we tend to forget, and I mean, let's not make it about Alfonso, because it's very unfair. In fact, I kind of take back what I said, because one thing is a man doing the amazing films he does, and showing us that he's such a gifted and talented voice, and strong. And that's something he won, and we should be very proud for him, and also really happy that he won this when he's very young, and we're still gonna see a lot of film from Alfonso, you know. But in terms of the other, of the Si Se Puede feeling, it's like we cannot allow ourselves to forget where we come from, what needed to happen for us to be here talking about the story of a Latino in this country, you know. The struggle and the work and the fight of people in like Cesar, like Dolores, like Gilbert, like everyone in the movement needs to be recognized, celebrated, and it's us. We tend to forget, you know. We tend to say, well, okay, that's it, but that's part of the past. Or we should make sure that we tell our kids who's that guy that has a name in a school, a name in a street, a mural in East LA. Let's make sure the new generations don't forget what needed to happen for them to be where they are, you know?
Diego, I want to ask you, you did a perfect job of matching the Central Valley, but did you ever just consider shooting it in the actual locations where this all occurred, or was Mexico always the first choice?
It was no, it wasn't the first choice, but the actual places were never the first choice because they look so different than in the 60s, you know. And technology has arrived to the fields, and we would have had to use a lot of visual effects and money we didn't have in cleaning and changing, and so. And you know what? It was I was looking somewhere else in Mexico, and mi compadre that is from Sonora, Jesus Ochoa, another actor, said to me, "Are you dumb? We produce 80% of the table grape of this country." And I go like, "Really?" And I went to Sonora, and I had the same feeling I had when I was standing on the valley here. You know, I had that feeling of like, I'm no one. I'm nothing, sorry. You know, I'm a little dot in the middle of nowhere. I'm a little ant in the middle of nowhere. That feeling of immensity and of being lost and forgotten, I completely felt it there, you know. So I said, this is the right place. And also, we tried to finance the film in the States at the beginning. We tried to do it the way, you know, the book says. You go to studios, you pitch the idea, they tell you they're interested, they give a few notes, and then you go and execute. Well, this time they said, "Oh, it's an amazing idea, we love it, we're glad you're doing it, and please, when you're ready, come show it to us." And we'll see if we want to join, you know.
Wow.
Then a few people said, "Oh, it's not." I remember, and this is not something I'm coming up with, and I'm never gonna say who said it, but I'm sure when they read this, they'll know who they are. Someone said, "How can we make the story a little more sexy?"
Have you ever?
And that's my point, because it's not a little more sexy. It's because that's why today the conditions in the fields are still horrible. Like people said, why not an actor like Javier Bardem or Antonio Banderas? And I say, well, if Javier Bardem was on the fields, he would be getting paid, you know. It's a very different story. So my point is that to be authentic and to be able to do the film we wanted with the freedom I'm used to work with, we had to go back home, and we found the exact opposite over there. You know, it took us. I remember calling our partners at Mr. Mod. Mr. Mod is John Malkovich's company. I remember talking to Leanne and Ross when we came back from Mexico with like 40% of the financing in one weekend. When we were like hitting a wall here, we said, Pablo and I, yeah, let's go to Mexico. Let's go and do it the way we do. Even if we have to cut the budget in half, let's go. And we went back to Mexico, and in a weekend, there was someone that said, I'll put 40%. And then another one came, and then another one came. And in 2 or 3 weeks, we knew our film was happening, you know. Then we came back, and the good thing is that by this process, we found the best partners we could get, you know.
Have you ever felt discriminated in Hollywood? Sorry.
Not just in Hollywood.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not just in Hollywood. I mean, we tend to blame Hollywood for everything, but it's I mean, yeah, of course I've been discriminated in many ways. In many ways. But not just in Europe or even in Latin America, you know. It's a reality. And the other day I was in a panel about the food industry and in Berlin, and someone said it's definitely, there's always been a racial issue on the fields, you know. First it was Filipinos, then Mexican Americans, then, but there's always this kind of feeling that we have issues accepting accepting differences, you know, and celebrating differences, and it's just such a shame.
Diego, one of the, as strong as the story is in the film, your technical aspects are just amazing, starting with your cinematography and working with Enrique Chidiac.
Mm-hmm.
How did you come to team up with Enrique, and what were the considerations you had in terms of your lighting, your lensing, because you also interspersed the newsreel footage, so everything looks very cinematic from the day, but has this great openness and brightness to it.
With Enrique, I was very lucky to find him, and because he has done big films, but he still sees the world from the perspective I see it. You know, he's from Ecuador. He's done very little film too, and knows how to do more with less, and to use creativity to supply what money cannot bring you. And then in terms of how I wanted the film to look, I think the best choice, and that choice, I think I made that choice from the moment I finished shooting the first film I did. I said, I don't care how difficult it is, I'm doing film, I'm not doing HD, you know. And in fact, when we were choosing what kind of film, we decided to go for Super 16, and that already brings you into a different era, you know. It's that thing that my kid watches me in the computer working in the film or editing or doing, he says, but it's kind of dirty, Dad. And then, like a 5-year-old, he's never gonna have a reference about how film looked, you know. But for us, it's very different. Like, just by shooting in Super 16, in a second, we were in a different place. But also, we played a lot with the saturation, and so my point was to be able to feel the struggle from the perspective of a farm worker, because it's very easy to arrive to the fields and to see it, and you have a feeling like, oh, you're in sideways and it's amazing, you know, and what a gorgeous landscape, you know, very green, and then you have the sand that is gives you this feeling of a desert, but suddenly with green, you know, and then with the richness of the green, and then the blues in the sky, because the desert light is beautiful. So you go, wow, must be amazing to work there. And I didn't want you to feel that, you know. So to me, it was very important to always be reminded that they were there. And it wasn't a choice, you know, that they had to be there because there was no other option. Because if you would have an option, you would run.
Movement, which is 10 years movement into 90 minutes of film. So how did you decide what particular events from the Cesar Chavez movement? Because there were so many, but also so many that the world didn't know. So how did you decide what you were going to use?
I went through the process of saying I definitely don't want to do a film that starts the day he was born and ends the day he died, because then that's the most unfair thing to do, because an hour and 45 can never be enough to talk about the life of someone. But I said I'm gonna concentrate in one achievement, and that's the boycott. And why? Because I think it's very pertinent to say that that's still possible, and in fact that to me is the only way of real change to happen, when we engage with consumers, and when we remember that we're all consumers, and being a consumer, being a citizen, comes with a responsibility. And if we would know this, the world would be a better place in a second. But we cannot allow indifference to rule our lives. You know, we have to know that there's a responsibility. And when I ask for something, or when I buy something, I should know what's behind. That it is my responsibility. I cannot blame anyone for being part of that. You know, and to me that was very simple, and that can apply to any context. You know, it doesn't matter where you live. You're not alone. There's people around, so go and try to connect. You know, at least that's what I do with what I do, and that's when I connected with Cesar. And the other thing that was very important to me, and it came out from an interview I had with Helen Chavez, is what it meant to see a son leave the house when this was happening. You know, what it meant for a father, not to be able to explain to a son that thing that he's living as being abandoned, in fact, it's for him, and it's as painful for the father as it is for the son. You know, and I thought that was a great topic, great thing, and also something that connected with me and what worries me today. So I decided those things were going to be the center of our film.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.